Hi, I'm Ernie.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Budget Nerds.
What was all in your mind?
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Ben, welcome back to the show. How are things going?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to nerd out. And I want to nerd out this week to some questions that the community has asked us. So we've done this before, and it went really well. Loved hearing, what other YNABers are thinking, what they want us to talk about. So we decided to do again. Dropped a post in the YNAB fans group. Is that right?
Yeah. Shout out to the fans group over on Facebook. We'll leave a link in the description for that if you want to check them out. Nicest group of folks.
Absolutely fantastic folks. Yep.
So we asked them up for some questions.
They gave us a ton of questions, and we just kind of picked some of those top questions and just thought we would answer them here. So let's dive in. Question number 1. I like this one. Do you forecast finances outside your budget?
Ernie, do you use any tools ever besides YNAB?
YNAB, that is it. And do not forecast.
Right. We got this is kind of pushing the buttons a little bit, this question. I like it. So first of all, let's talk about what do we mean by forecasting? What are we talking about there?
Well, just thinking ahead, right? Planning ahead, figuring out, okay, what will this account look like in X amount of months or something like that.
Right. And
just thinking into the future.
Yeah, and I think that kind of forecasting, there's nothing wrong with it. The word forecast is kind of a dirty word in the YNAB world because we distinguish ourselves from forecasting by saying we only budget, we only assign money that we have right now, right? We don't project future income and actually use that and put those into our categories, right? We only assign money we have right now. And so forecasting is kind of a dirty word because we use that to refer to, projecting your income for the whole month and using, actually assigning the money before you actually get it. That's not so much what we're talking about here, though, I don't think. We're talking more about ways to look ahead and kind of project what's going to happen in the future so you know how much you should budget today, right?
Yeah, and planning long term, ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And so trying to set yourself up today for something good tomormer.
Yeah, and we always consider future income, when we're assigning money. We say like, okay, well, whenever you get paid, whenever you're going to put that money into categories, ask yourself, what does this money need to do before I get paid again? So it always does involve considering future income, but we don't actually budget with money we don't have yet. That's the big key that we just never do in YNAB.
Right. So to answer the question, Ben, you forecast outside of YNAB?
I do a little bit. There's been a couple times. I have a few spreadsheets that I use outside of YNAB to in fact, if I ever have any kind of life decision of any kind at all, I use YNAB, but I also make a spreadsheet about it.
Are you even a budget nerd if you don't have a spreadsheet?
I mean, there's got to be some kind of spreadsheet, right? Yeah, one thing we're thinking about is saving for medical expenses for a baby because my wife and I are expecting. We're going to have our 4th child probably around the end of February, we're thinking. I think that should be around the due date.
Awesome.
There. So it's pretty exciting. And yeah, whenever that happens. In fact, this is the reason why I started YNAB. When I found out we were going to have our first baby, I was like, we have to save all this money for maternity leave, for medical expenses, all that. When you're in the U.S., there's a lot of expenses that come up with this. And that's when I first started searching for something different for budgeting. So we're doing that again, and I needed to figure out how much I need to save because I have an HSA with money in it for medical expenses, and we're adding to that regularly. And so I need to figure out, okay, when the baby comes, how much are we going to have in that HSA account? And so how much more do we need to save on top of what we're already regularly contributing to medical expenses, right? Yep. And so I made a little spreadsheet. I put in what we have now. I put in how much we're expecting to put into it between now and February. And I also just kind of estimated our average medical expenses and how much we're going to spend. So I got like what we're going to put in minus what we're probably going to spend. It's a guess, but it's a pretty good educated guess. And I forecasted what the balance of my HSA is going to be in February, so I could figure out how much more I need to save between now and then. So yeah, I did a little bit of forecasting in a spreadsheet in order to figure that out. But it was all about determining how much I need to budget right now.
Sure. And how accurate do you think that forecast is going to be? Do you think you're going to nail it?
Barring any like crazy medical episodes, any broken legs or anything like that, I think it'll be pretty accurate. Yeah, because our medical expenses are pretty steady. So yeah, unless something crazy happens, I think we'll be fine. And if it does, we'll be okay. We have other emergency savings to fall back on there, and we could always we could dial the savings up if we need to. So I think it'll be fine.
So I forecast as well. I forecast with retirement. So I have my Excel spreadsheet, and in that I'm just keeping track of monthly contributions to retirement accounts because I have the amount I think we're going to need to retire. Mm-hmm. I have the age that I want to retire at, so I've got that date in mind. And then I'm just kind of monitoring how much we need to save every month to actually get to that amount by that time. I am tracking that. And again, it is influencing my decisions today about how much we set aside for retirement.
Yeah, again, it's all about figuring out how much you need to budget now for a future.
And I used to do a lot of forecasting back in the aggressive debt paydown days.
Yeah.
Right? Because, that was like a thrilling moment in my life. As much as I hated having that debt, like I got this rush out of paying that aggressively off. And so, it was anticipating, maybe some big inflows, tax return, third paycheck, maybe some sort of bonus, and all right, how much of that can go towards the debt? And then after that, where are we going to be left with that balance? And then how's that going to speed up the process? And, thinking through all those various scenarios.
Yeah, that's really true too. Because, there's a lot to consider when you are paying off debt, especially if you have multiple debts and you want to know, well, if I pay off this one first, how much longer would it take, or how much shorter? There's so many variables, and we're working on a few tools to be able to do that in YNAB. So be on the lookout for that. That's a little teaser.
We've been beta testing them.
And
I keep thinking like, oh my goodness, I wish I had this back when I was paying off my debt, because I was using those outside tools. Yeah. So I'd have YNAB open and I'd go to all these online calculators and I had these different spreadsheets. Now I think it's going to all be able to be handled right there in YNAB. It's going to be so slick. It's going to be awesome.
Actually, I myself am working on paying off my mortgage right now. I've talked about that before. And I have this like beautiful spreadsheet. It's like, it's a thing of beauty, honestly. I love the thing. And just for forecasting, like, okay, well, if I put this much extra on a month, how much more would, how much faster would I be able to pay off the debt? Now, the tools that we have in beta that people on the YNAB team get to play with before it goes out to everybody, just totally, I don't need that spreadsheet anymore, actually.
Okay, hot take. I think no matter how awesome YNAB gets, budget nerds will always find a reason to use a spreadsheet for something.
I still have the spreadsheet, okay? I like, it's still there. I'm even still updating it. But if I want to make like a quick like what if scenario, the new tools we have, actually, I don't have to go to the spreadsheet to do it. So yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever let go of it because I just love it so much.
And you'll find something else to make a spreadsheet with, right?
Oh yeah. Or any major life decision of any kind requires some kind of a spreadsheet. I
have so many in my Google account.
Yep. So yeah, there's always something. So we definitely use tools outside of YNAB sometimes. But I mean, who knows? Maybe eventually YNAB will get so cool, so smart with even some forecasting tools, and so nerdy that we won't even need the Google sheet anymore. I don't know. We'll see. But there you go. Let's move on to a next question that I thought would be cool to talk about. how do you keep your budget fresh and not just running on autopilot? I thought this was a really interesting question. What do you think, Ernie?
I go back and forth with this one. I think part of the goal maybe is to get to that autopilot. Not necessarily like mindlessness with finances, but the fact that I'm in control of my money, I'm on this set course, and it's just kind of the budget's doing its thing, right? I think that's a good place to get to, because then it's freeing up time and energy to do other things with my life.
We talked about this before, like as much as we're nerdy and we love looking at our budgets and playing with our spreadsheets and doing all that, I think the goal really should be to not think about money so much.
Yeah.
You know? And so, you know, when this person asks, like, how do I make sure I'm not just running on autopilot? I'm not so sure that's necessarily a bad thing, so long as you're still being mindful of what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess that's really what the question is getting at, is like, how do I make sure I'm still being mindful even when I've been budgeting for a long time?
Right. Because even just recently, I've recognized, you know, okay, I've been doing this budgeting thing for so long. I'm really dialed in. I know account balances. I know where all the categories are at. And sometimes I just find myself going through the motions. It's like import, approve the match. I'm good to go, right? And I don't I'm not even processing any of that. So I think what's been good for me is that yearly reset, that yearly fresh start that I do.
Yeah.
Where I just kind of wipe everything clean, take another look at my accounts. Do I still like the structure? Take another look at the categories and the targets. You know, is this kind of still what we want our money to do? And then even dump the money into the new budget and reprioritize if necessary.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, we've talked about how I've been thinking about doing a fresh start, and I think I need it because there are some times where, hey, you know what? I think we've just been kind of making some assumptions about, you know, budgeting this much to car maintenance or setting this much aside for, I don't know, for whatever random thing, or even like maybe your more discretionary categories. Like maybe we don't need so much in dining out. Maybe we've let that creep up a little bit. You know, there's all sorts of things like that. I think a fresh start would help to just rethink. But I still feel like I struggle because there's a tension between like the security of the old budget. Like I know that I've really dialed in a lot of things. And then also the excitement of doing the fresh start and getting a new perspective.
Well, you know what you could do?
That.
You know what those folks could do? Just do that fresh start, because YNAB's going to save a copy of that old budget, right?
Right.
And don't commit to it. Just like, hey, let's play around with things, right? Start changing things up and then just see how that feels. Now, I like change, so it's easy for me to, you know, imagine a scenario like that, and then I can see myself just saying, oh, I like this new budget way more. But I don't know, just the practice of knowing, okay, I'm not committing to anything, but let's just see what life could be like with something a little different. I don't know.
That is so helpful, Ernie, because I think because here's my fear. I would do a fresh start, and then I'd just look at my old budget, and I'd just recreate the same budget, and nothing really changed. Like, what was even the point?
Oh, I deleted one category. Cool.
Right. But maybe it's just a good exercise. Maybe even if you do end up with the same budget, it's just a good exercise to go through it anyway. And maybe you confirm, like, yeah, actually the categories that I have set up and the amounts I'm putting toward it are what I want. But if you don't do that exercise, you don't know, you know. And understanding that you're not making a permanent decision, because you can always go back and bring up that old budget file and keep going with it if you want to. Maybe that'll get me. I'm saying me, but also anybody else who's feeling this way. Maybe that'll give us the push to try it, you know? So, yeah.
There we go.
That's great. Okay. Good thinking there. Let's move on to the next one, Ernie. Do you want to read this?
Yeah, I like this one too. Advantages and disadvantages of a slush fund category.
Okay, so what do we mean by a slush fund category?
Well, let's read the exact question here.
Okay.
So lots of people keep a slush fund category. I've seen people call it all sorts of things like the banana stand and other names. Talk about the advantages and disadvantages of having a category like this to wham at will. I know I love mine.
Okay, so when they say wham, they mean whack-a-mole, which means take money from to cover overspending or
and banana stand
changing priorities.
I didn't get that reference at first.
Oh, that's a reference to Arrested Development. Have you ever seen
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
I had to Google it.
Oh, there you go. Have you seen it? You got to watch Arrested Development.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a classic. Absolute classic. You gotta watch. It's like joke after joke after joke. It's so good. Anyway, check that out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, so I guess we're not so much talking about. I feel like this could be two things. Either it's like a generic savings category that you're just kind of setting money aside and you don't really have a specific purpose, or it's a category that you have specifically to help you cover overspending or anything that might just come up in the middle of the month.
Yep.
And in the latter, I think it's good to have something like that. Like we even have in our default category list, I don't think we have it anymore, but for a while we even had a category called Stuff I Forgot to Budget For. And it's literally just kind of a slush fund in case you forget something. It's really good, especially when you first get started, because, oh man, there's going to be a million things you forget, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think up to a point, you might actually be in danger of not following Rule 1.
And that's
too much there.
Yeah, that's what I started thinking because, I needed that Stuff I Forgot to Budget For category because there were things I was genuinely forgetting. But then as time went on and I knew all of my expenses, I started using that less and less. And so it kind of became that go-to category to always pull money from. And I think my initial reaction is, boy, that kind of limits my ability to weigh the trade-offs.
Right.
To actually think through a spending decision because, I'm just going to buy it because I have this wham category that I can take from.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a matter of it's really a matter of how much money is in that category. Like, and it's going to be different for everybody because it depends on your spending and your income. But I think there's a point. It's good to have, especially when you first get started, to have just a place that hey, if something goes wrong, I have some money that I can just grab from and fix it. But if it gets too big, you're really not following Rule 1 because inherently the money in that category does not have a real job. It has the job of helping you, grease the wheels a little bit. But if it has so much money in there and you're putting money in there because you just don't really know what to do with it, you're not able to weigh the trade-offs because if you want to go out to eat and you don't have the money, you just say, I'll just take it from there. And that money in that slush fund category could have done something else. It could have helped you pay off debt. It could have helped you with some other goal. But you don't really know because you never really gave it the chance to sit in a more specific category. You know what I mean? So I think there's a danger there, but there's also a lot of advantages to it too.
Right, because the flexibility of it is great, and I love that. And so maybe for some folks that have that category, maybe try going without it. See what happens. And those folks that don't have it, maybe there'd be an advantage to at least maybe testing to see, what would this look like if, $50 or something like that a month. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, some folks talk about leaving that money in I said to be budgeted and ready to assign, right? Careful there.
We're going to have to start beeping that out. Like not even allow it to come through.
I can't even. I'm never going to be able to stop. But, like 2 years from now, I'm going to look back and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, remember to be budgeted? So much nostalgia." But for now, I'm just struggling with it. Keep saying the wrong thing. But yeah, like people talk about leaving that money and ready to assign, and I feel like for me, I can't do that at all because. That I just automatically start spending it on pizza, like just immediately. So there's something psychological about it. Even just putting it into maybe a slush fund category, it gives it some kind of a job, But
yeah, I'm running though into a similar problem by having a slush fund category.
Oh yeah,
it feels too much like ready to assign for me.
Well,
so I call
in
mine
this big
holding
transition
tank
with the new house and all this. Well, I guess it's been a few months now, but it's still, it takes a while to get settled, right?
It does. And so, the money's just been sitting there. And like I've said in previous episodes, it's from the sale of the house. And we know with the new house, there's certain things that we want to do with it. But now we're looking at that money and it's in a holding tank category. And there was a YNABer who recommended that, I think in the comments section, and I latched onto it right away. I'm like, holding tank, I love that. And I switched my category name to it. So thank you for that. But it's just kind of sitting there And you know what the first category we use to roll with the punches from?
The holding tank, right?
It's the holding tank.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And because we have jobs in mind for it, but we haven't actually given those dollars specific jobs in the budget. And now we're even rethinking, maybe we don't want to use this money for the house anymore, and there's other things we're thinking about. So
right.
Yeah, it's caused some budgeting concern.
Well, you're afraid like you're not really following Rule 3 because you're not weighing the trade-offs when you make that decision. Because you could be unknowingly jeopardizing some house update you want to make.
Yeah, how come we have $0 in this category? I don't know.
Right. Well,
boy, Chipotle's been good this year.
I'm going to give you the same advice that you just gave me, I think. Go ahead and put it somewhere and don't feel like you're making a permanent decision, you know? Like, stick it into a specific house update category for something, you know, real specific, whatever it is, and just let it sit there for a while. And if maybe you'll find, you know what, I don't really want to spend the money on that. And then you'll know, hey, or maybe if you find, hey, I'm still pilfering money from that category, you might realize, actually, I don't really want to do that update right now with the house. And I want to use this money for something else. You know, I've had that. I've had experiences like that with lots of things that I've saved up for a long time. Like I had we had 2 cars and one of my cars pooped out on me. And we had to sell it. It was a 95 Camry, so it was very much on its last leg. And we started saving up for a second car to replace that car. And we saved for like 9 months. We had 1 car the whole time. And we got to where we got like 10 months in saving up for that new car, and we realized, you know, we've been fine with 1 car. It works really well for my family because we both work from home, and I've got little kids. So who aren't like into a bunch of activities yet, you know? So we just use that money for something else. So I would say, yeah, just stick it into a category, see how it feels for a little while, you know?
Yeah, boy, just thinking about that, I'm realizing I think I like the security of that category. Like looking at that number, kind of knowing, oh, well, if nothing else, we at least have some reserves here, right? You know, imagining the worst case scenarios involved. So
maybe it's an emergency fund or something
right.
like that.
Maybe I just really need to think through this whole thing a little bit more.
Right. And if you just change the name of that holding category to emergency fund, do you think you'd be less likely to Rule 3 pilfer from it all the time, or would it be the same?
I think it would shift where I take money from a little bit.
Right, yeah. It's funny, just like, that's the thing about YNAB. It's just little brain hacks, a lot of it. Like, just changing the name of your category might actually cause you to take it from somewhere else, because you gave it a name, you know?
I know I would still take from it. I just know I wouldn't take for certain things.
Okay.
Right? So, we went over grocery budget. I'm not going to take from that category, right?
Uh-huh.
That's going to come from I'm going to have to just force myself to take it from, you know, some non-monthly expense.
Yeah. But maybe a bigger thing that you didn't see coming. You might take it from that. And that's the purpose of an emergency fund anyway. So, this question got us deep into it. I love it.
Well, and it makes me think back to the previous question of how do you, you know, not go into autopilot. I think as, you know, the budget moves on, right, there's always new problems that just sort of come out, right? Because lives are constantly changing, priorities are changing. And so we're going to always be changing the budget and mindfully engage with what needs to happen to move it forward.
That's true. Yeah. Your budget will always be interesting so long as your life is interesting. Put it that way. So if your budget gets kind of boring, maybe your life's getting a little boring. Maybe you should go on a trip. Maybe you should do something crazy. I don't know.
I feel like that quote needs to go all over our social channels, man.
Man. We're going to cause people to do like all these like death-defying feats, and we're going to be responsible for them like falling off a mountain or something. So just be careful, be smart, be safe, okay? don't have a budget midlife crisis because of us. All right. Let's move on to the last question here. I'll just read the question outright. It says, distinguishing between lifestyle creep and actually addressing needed things you just couldn't afford before. Okay, so what do we mean by lifestyle creep? Let's define that a little bit first. You want to take that, Ernie?
I mean, is that just kind of always increasing, purchasing, like moving up to the next best house, the next best, always having to kind of have things? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's just as your income goes up, mindlessly increasing your spending as well, and not just like, oh, I made like a big extra purchase or something like that. It's just like your regular, like your base level of spending is always coming up to your income, you know, and you do that really mindlessly. And it's a thing that happens to a lot of people, to where they get to a place where they're not maneuverable because they might say, hey, I want to leave this job and take a lower paying job that might fulfill me a little bit more, be a better schedule or something like that. But I can't do it because I feel like my baseline of spending, all my obligations are right up at my income. Mm-hmm. And so, it's called lifestyle creep. And I think you can almost think of it as like, it's like a subtle, almost like insidious thing, because it's done without intention at all. It's just kind of a mindless thing. So they're what this person asking is, I think what they're asking, like, is it okay for me to increase my lifestyle as my income increases without doing it mindlessly? And I think absolutely. Yeah. So long as you're very intentional about it. I think that's the key difference between lifestyle creep and potentially addressing things that you couldn't afford before, is just be sure that you're very mindful of what you're doing. You know?
Absolutely. I love this question because it hits so close to home. Because over the past couple of years, you know, Christy and I, for the first time in our marriage, had 2 full-time incomes.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So we had more money than we'd ever seen before. And it felt like incredible lifestyle creep. And like we were doing something wrong. And the truth is, yes, we were buying more things. You know, we moved into a different house, bought a new car, stuff like that. But, and I like that you pointed this out, it all comes down to being mindful versus, you know, mindless. And we were definitely being mindful, because I think I was worried, you know, over the past couple of years, like it always creep in my brain, like, are we being irresponsible here? You know, are we engaging in this lifestyle creep? But no, things were changing, and we were still mindful of our money, and we were more mindful of our priorities. And we were just making sure that the money's actually lining up with the priorities.
Yeah. It's all about intention in the end. And I think maybe just checking yourself, like maybe ask yourself a question, like, if I wanted to cut my income in half, or, you know, cut maybe even just a few $100s a month or something like that, right? Would it wreck me? You know, like, and you know, there's some scenarios where it's like, well, actually, I'm not dealing with lifestyle creep kind of situation. I'm dealing with my income is maybe lower than I want it to be for other reasons, right? But if you're getting to a place where you increase your income and you feel like you always like really need that, as soon as you get a raise, you need that raise to live, you know, maybe try to have a mindset of like, I have the skills, because I've been budgeting for a long time. I have the skills to cut back if I need to, you know? So like maybe do an experiment, say like, what would happen if I had to cut $100 out of my budget, and see where you could cut those and be like, Emma, would I be okay with this? You know, like I would almost just try to question, maybe just do some experiments on some ways that maybe you could decrease your consumption, decrease your spending, and see how you feel about that. That kind of gives you a sense of how close am I to the edge of my income and what I feel like I need, quote unquote, my baseline spending, what I need to spend in order to live, you know?
Yeah, that's good advice. And, you know, this maybe sounds stupid, or maybe it actually is stupid, but I find it helpful in my own life where I'll just actually say no to certain things.
Yeah,
even though I can have it, sometimes it just feels like I can get whatever I want. And so I just choose not to buy that item. And again, it probably is stupid, but like saying no to guac at Chipotle, or the adult beverage at the restaurant, you know, like just telling myself no and not actually allowing myself to have something is a good practice for me. And I don't know. It's beneficial, at least
you're
for me.
exercising this muscle of like, I don't have to increase my spending.
That's what I was trying to say.
Even
Perfectly
if,
said.
Even if your income's increasing, you could do it, and it wouldn't be too big a deal, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Or maybe like even challenging yourself to spend less than you assigned to groceries or something like that. Or even big things. Like there's a few like piece of tech things like there's this new like Steam Deck thing. I won't get into it too much. It's a video game thing that that people are they're announcing it's probably not going to release until like next year. And I could start budgeting for that, but I don't really need it. Like I want it because it's a cool piece of tech, but I don't know if I really would find it that useful. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, things like that. Maybe even saying no to bigger purchases too, or even say no to start saving for bigger purchases, just to kind of flex that muscle of I can be in control of my spending, even with a budget. So,
I'm kind of doing the same thing with golf clubs. I love golf, and the clubs I have now, they are horrible. I mean, they are so old. They're knockoffs, just really bad. But you know what? I haven't even golfed around this year. All I'm doing is going to the driving range. I just don't have the time to commit to it right now. So yes, I could get that new set of clubs. Yes, I could start saving towards them, but it just wouldn't make sense for me. So I'm also holding off on that big purchase as well.
I think another thing to guard against lifestyle creep is being committed to saving for a big goal, and also being committed to giving your money away as your income increases too. The saving piece, I think it's really important to always have some kind of a big goal you're going after. Something that's going to take you longer than like 6 months to save for, or something like that. Because if you do get an increase in income, it's an option to put it toward that big goal, and then you put it toward the big goal. So you're not increasing your baseline of spending. And that guards against lifestyle creep a little bit, So trying to have a big goal that you're going after and putting some of your increase in income toward that instead of just like guac at Chipotle,
right.
Can guard against it. But also maybe committing to saving some of any amount of increase in income toward retirement, or committing to giving a certain amount of your increase to a charity of your choice would be a really good way to guard against lifestyle creep, because one, you are choosing not to consume all of your raise, right? And giving money away just makes you more grateful, just inherently. It just makes you a more gracious and grateful person, And so you'll feel like less entitled to spend all of your money if you start giving some of it away. So I think those are a couple things you could do to guard against lifestyle.
Yeah, and on that retirement piece, I'm thinking of the advice that Jesse has given, the founder of YNAB, on his podcast numerous times, of increasing retirement savings just 1% every quarter.
Yeah.
Because, then, that usually incorporates, throughout the course of a year, maybe a couple pay raises or some bonuses, whatever the case may be. And it's just 1%. So you're not really going to feel that a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the word that that Jesse used in the podcast is like, see if you don't die.
Yeah.
Which he was tongue in cheek there, obviously, but he was just like, see if you really feel it or not, And I think that's helpful. And when we're talking about this, I do want to acknowledge we're talking about folks that have been budgeting for a while, and maybe you're kind of feeling like maybe it's on autopilot, and you're worried that you might increase your lifestyle without being intentional. If you're in a place where actually I do really need to increase my income just to survive, do not feel bad about increasing your lifestyle if you're in that place. There's a different set of decisions to make if you're in a place where you are actively working to increase your income in order to get ahead and get to where you need to be and have more security financially. So that's not really what we're talking about there. I think it's all the questions we have. There were more. Some of the questions on that post were could be whole episodes. So we really appreciate.
Yeah, we'll keep coming back to that and see if we can dive into some of those other ones. But these were great questions. Absolutely fantastic. So great discussion here. Would love to hear from folks in the comments, as always.
Yeah, tell us about forecasting. Tell us about feeling like your budget's on autopilot. Do you have a slush fund? Talk about that. And let's talk about lifestyle creep a little bit, too. There's a little bit of a summary for you. And I'd love to see what you guys think in the comments.
Cool. Well, until next time, happy budgeting, folks.
Happy budgeting. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Ernie.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Budget Nerds. That was really long.
The pause comes after this is Budget Nerds.